right, so welcome everybody. My name is Maddie Gregory. I am a career counselor over at COL, but I specifically work with the Georgetown College students to help them connect their academic pathways to possible career opportunities in the future. And one of the really cool things that I get to do in that space is connect current students with really, really cool alumni, which is what we're hoping to do today. So we put together a really cool panel. I'm saying cool too much. A really awesome panel for you to get to know some recent alums and their stories in entertainment and media and journalism and business and everything in between, entrepreneurship, I think, too, in here. So a lot of really cool stuff going on. I'm going to introduce Tom. So Tom Trelonzio is my partner in crime. He's an academic dean in the college, which I'm sure most of you know who Tom is, but I work really closely with Tom, and so we've partnered on this program together. So Tom, take it away.
Yeah, I just want to say a quick welcome, and so excited to see so many names and folks that are joining us today. This is the second in our series of careers in the college alumni panels. This is the brainstorming of between myself, Maddie Gregory, and Abby Adams, who is here with us tonight. And Abby is a Georgetown College alum from the 1980s. I won't say what year, but Abby is also a parent of several Georgetown students that were in the MSB, but also in the college. And so between the three of us, we started thinking about how we could introduce students to alumni that have focused, when they were students at Georgetown within the liberal arts tradition, but have gone on into the entertainment media space. And that is why we're running these types of panels. And we really hope, and the goal really is for our students to learn and to listen and to be a part of this conversation, so you can gather this information and help yourselves kind of think about your next steps and your preparation for your future. And you can see in the panelists that are here with us today, all the good work that they've done and what they're doing now. And the one thing I will also say before I introduce Abby to say just a quick couple of words is that this is all part of the Georgetown network. This is so important in that, Hoyas help Hoyas. And that is why our alums are here, because they want to be a part of your lives as undergraduates. And it's joining that connection. So you're expanding your network right now by being a part of this panel tonight. With that, what I'd like to do very quickly is I would like to have Abby Adams to say a quick hello. So Abby, I'm putting you on the spot, if you wouldn't mind, to say hello. And then I'm going to introduce Jimmy, our moderator.
Well, hello from sunny Santa Monica in California, and hello to Jimmy and Isaiah and Gabriella, all three people that I know and love and have been very helpful in many ways as alumni in and out of the entertainment business. And I'm just thrilled that we got to put this all together. Thanks to Dean C. and Maddie and Jimmy and panel. Take it away.
Welcome, Jimmy. So it's Jimmy Ramirez, who is College of 2015, who's going to serve as our moderator. And we're thrilled to have him here today. And so, Jimmy, the floor is yours if you would mind going forward and taking over and introducing our panelists.
Absolutely. So before we get started and get into it, I have to give my flowers or virtual flowers to Abby. I know that kind of where you're all at, you students, being a student and looking for a job is really scary, but to kind of illuminate how Hoyas help Hoyas, Abby, the peak of the pandemic was on the phone with me. Students were, because, things were scary at that time. We didn't know what was happening. There was classes not happening. And Abby was facilitating finding jobs for so many students. And it was, for me, when at the time I was 4 years out of my undergrad, it was a moment of wow, this is a really dope network of people that really care and show up for each other. And so I just have to really give those flowers to Abby. And yeah, it was just really cool to see. So I hope you receive them. But I'm going to just quickly introduce myself and then let the panelists really describe the nature of their work, give us a 2 to 4 minute kind of breakdown of what challenges they face, what their day looks like, and then we'll go from there. So yeah, like I said, Jimmy Ramirez here. Right now, what am I currently working on? I'm writing a series in partnership with NPR, which is a series on the high history of marijuana. I'm looking at marijuana future and past and looking at how marijuana has been weaponized in communities of color. This was a seed when I talked to Abby about it, and I was still at Google, and now it's like full blown. I have a researcher, an editor. It's real, and so quite magical. And so going from Google, where I managed clients such as Netflix, Universal Studios, Fandango, it was my role to basically go devise the marketing strategy for every film that was coming out of those respective studios. So coming from the business side of tech in Hollywood was where I started in this industry. And now as a creator, writer, reporter, maker, it's been a very interesting transition. And so that's kind of where I'm at now in my career. I want to allow these like fabulous panelists who like took time out of their week and their day and their time to sit with questions. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and then we're going to get into some like pretty dope questions here. Yeah. So Gabrielle, if you want to take it away.
Wonderful. Well, hi everyone. Hoya Saxa. It's great to be talking with Georgetown students and alums. I am actually traveling for work. So I haven't traveled in over 2 years due to the pandemic, but I am currently away as I've just been on a television set for a week. So that's a fun part of my job. Throughout the pandemic, we've been working from home, and my work has continued. TV has continued to be made. And I'm really grateful to the crews and actors and the writers for making television. And so on a day-to-day, I'll read scripts that agents and managers will submit me of cool writers to get to know. I'll meet with writers who I've read their scripts and want to get to know. I'll deal with about 8 or 9 different overall deals. So I'm at a studio, which means we have exclusive or first look deals with different writers, producers, directors, talent for their works in television. So I work with about 8 of those on their drama slates. So it's everything from hearing a pitch of here's a show I want to make, to reading a book they like, to introducing them to a writer, to working through development of a sale to a network, and then all the written materials they have to do. So that's kind of a typical day for me. And along with that, it can be challenging in dealing with different personalities, right? Like any job, like Jimmy at Google, you're dealing with a lot of different clients and needs. And same thing here, but it's really rewarding in that I get to read scripts and be involved in the creative and help, be a fly on the wall for some of these brilliant minds and be helpful if I can. But it can also be challenging in terms of, I'm at a big company. ABC Signature is one of Disney's companies. So, just some of the levels of bureaucracy or, Disney is a very successful company. It's also a very, it has a lot of experience and it has a lot of caution. So that can be a challenge at times, but I think it's really rewarding in the fact that every day I get to wake up and I can read something and I can fall into a world that I'm not in or I don't know anything about. And I can help support a writer, whether it's a showrunner, an executive producer who has been working for years, or whether it's an assistant who has a great idea that I can help nurture to the screen. And I love getting to work with different platforms. So I'm at ABC Signature. We do work with ABC, but now I also get to work with Disney Plus and Freeform and Hulu and FX and Nat Geo and Onyx and Star. And we can sell to Netflix. I've worked with CBS in the past. So it's really cool just to be involved in making television that I'm going to watch and be involved in bringing people's stories that aren't seen or heard to the screen. Did I answer the question, Jimmy?
Absolutely. Yeah. Are you involved with Abbott Elementary? That's my favorite thing coming out of
I'm not.
ABC. Okay.
That's actually, that's a Warner Brothers television studio for ABC. So Warner Brothers, now they have HBO and HBO Max, but they used to be more independent, right? And so they sell, they're very good at selling and very good with their comedy. And, Chuck Lorre has been Warner Brothers for years. So
we love it.
I wish I was involved in it.
Oh, God bless Quinta and everything going on at ABC in there. Yeah. So the next, Allie, if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Hey, everyone. My name is Allie Prescott, class of 2014, and I studied American musical culture in the college. I started my career at Atelier Ace, which is a small little agency you've probably never heard of. It was the internal agency for Ace Hotel Group, which is a boutique hotel company headquartered in New York. I was there for about 2.5 years and did brand partnerships and events there. And it was basically a bunch of parties and art projects that were sponsored by brands. So I got to work with a lot of really cool creative people, and really use those first 2.5 years of my career to just sort of get the like admin chops going, and realized that my niche and my superpower was putting systems and structure into place so that super creative people and artists, and innovators could go in and make their mess, but have these constraints that still served our business goals. So after a couple years, I went to NPR back in DC, which is sort of my dream job. I'm thrilled to hear that you're working with them, Jimmy. And I helped build up their live events practice called NPR Presents. So I did live podcast events and events for NPR Music. You might know the Tiny Desk. Did that for a few years. 3 years in person, 1 year virtual, traveled around the country doing live podcast events for things like How I Built This, Code Switch, Pop Culture Happy Hour, that sort of thing. And really just, saw that I loved sort of honing in even more on this creating structure and really meeting business goals, but helping super creative people and makers do this. And so realized, all right, I can only do this so far here. And so actually now I'm at business school at UVA, in the first year of my MBA, which I really love. It is very uncomfortable, very challenging. But after this, I'm hoping to sort of take this, love of analysis and creating structure, but also all of my work has been super consumer and audience focused. And so I'm hoping to take my career in a more kind of like traditional marketing direction, but we'll see what happens. So in terms of challenges real quick, I think at NPR, I can speak most recently to that. NPR is this really unique position of being both a journalism media company, but also a nonprofit. And I'm sure anywhere you go, there will be a ton of red tape, but when you've got that double or triple whammy, it is the most red tape you have ever seen. So that really came, into play when it came to getting sponsorships in terms of who we could and couldn't work with, how quickly things do or don't get done. So it taught me a lot about how to navigate an organization and how to navigate the overall public media and media system as a whole. So happy to talk any more about that, but overall it's super rewarding and really glad I did it. So yeah.
That's so rad. I love that you just to highlight the admin chops that are so crucial at the beginning of the career. And then just like NPR knows how to throw a good party virtually. I haven't been able to do one in person, but I know I know that was your wheelhouse, Allie, so that's dope. Okay, and then we also have Isaiah Jones. Isaiah, we knew each other back in the day, and I'm just like, I see the updates via Instagram, so I'm very excited to see the whole, get the spiel. So I'll pass it to you.
That's hilarious. Good evening, everybody. You know what? That's funny, Jimmy. I graduated in 2016, and me and Jimmy probably connected maybe maybe my last 2 years, my last year. I don't know. And we've been following each other from afar. I majored in sociology. I double minored in music and African American studies. And I came to New York not too long after I graduated. And I've been at United Talent Agency since then. And I came in our trainee program and, have been working up since then. I started in our music department. I was an assistant, I was working with pop and indie pop and punk rock music, and I'm a musician, so just being in the department and starting to cut my teeth at what touring meant and what a live touring agent did, and music touring was really just everything I could hope for, just to get into the nitty gritty of it all. But shortly after getting into music, I started working with things that aren't traditionally on the stage, at least back then in 2017, 2018, and started working with digital talent, YouTubers. Most notably Rent Link, was one of the first things we started to see success with on the stage, and then broke into live podcasting. And since then, it's been kind of my North Star. And I've been working at the company to kind of get more interest and build more infrastructure around what is live events and this kind of non-traditional touring or alternative touring. Anybody that's kind of sits outside of music and comedy squarely are the folks that I look at. So yes, digital talent, yes, podcasters, yes, your kind of small niche branded conventions and expos, family and kids touring, working with properties like Blippi and Peppa Pig and Baby Shark and others, and just focusing on what it means to put them out in a live setting. Obviously, the challenge with that is that live had to go away during the pandemic, and we had to think about how do we do the live business during COVID, and a lot of virtual shows happened. A lot of virtual shows are still happening. People have not fully transitioned over, so they tend to still work these days. But it's been interesting navigating that. I think it's helped you think about yourself as a business, as a talent, and figuring out how do you connect with your fans. And I think that's the other challenging part, because within this space of touring that isn't just like a comedian or a band where there's kind of a cookie cutter way to kind of build it up. You start to get really creative about what talent can be successful, and what are the metrics around it, right? There's not really a surefire way to say somebody's going to hit in the live space, but if you look at certain things, you can kind of roll the dice. Sometimes you have better odds than another one. So I've learned over the years that how to be better at my guesses. And I would say the other challenge is just having so much to choose from. Like my typical day can look from routing, some kind of like family kids show on the road and, putting it in theaters, and then, looking at, small clubs, 100, 150 cap clubs, and looking at a digital talent, to then talking about, some obscure podcast that, is now, number 2 on the list that we need to be talking about. I mean, the information I received just within one day is just tremendous. So it's just sorting through a lot of that and making the right calls. But I say it's really meaningful to be to work with people that are also passionate artists like yourself, and a creative person that wants to really put out a message that's impactful in the world, and to be able to kind of put them out on the stage and allow that message to reach massive audiences or even 50 people, whoever will hear and buy the tickets, is really special to me. So I'm happy to be doing the job I do.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Beautiful to hear. And just my apologies, working at United Talent Agency, just want to really, really acknowledge that for folks in the room. Love it. Love to hear it. You spoke about podcasting, Isaiah, and we have the queen of podcasting in the room. We have Danielle Hewitt, a senior producer at Slate, someone who I definitely want to get coffee with after this, if that's cool. See how we build connections here. It's super relaxed, and yeah. So Danielle, I'll let you introduce yourself and talk about your work.
I think that's the first time I've been called Queen of Podcasting. I humbly accept. Hi, I'm Danielle. I graduated from Georgetown in 2018. I was actually an economics major, but I was a film and media studies minor, also minored in Spanish. So now I'm a senior producer at Slate Magazine. What I do day to day, I work on our daily news podcast called What Next? What it sounds like, I pretty much do anything that needs to be done for the show, short of hosting it. I book a guest, I record an interview, I edit that interview, I put music behind that interview and make it sound nice. I talk with the host about how the show's sounding like in a day. I started at Slate on the second semester of my senior year at Georgetown. I got just so supremely lucky. I kind of panicked and then applied everywhere, and somehow they let me in, and I've just been working there ever since. I started doing some of their chat shows, and then kind of worked my way into working on What Next. I think one of the challenges of what I do is just journalism is a very volatile industry, and in terms of resources, not Slate specifically, but if you're not at the Times, resources are kind of strapped. So if you listen to the end of the Daily, they'll say we have 8 billion producers working on our show. Right now there are 4 of us on my show, and we make a show 4 days a week. So the thing that's challenging about the show is also something that I really love about it, is that I get really close with all the people that I work with, and it's just really great to make something that I'm really proud of with people that I really like on a day in, day out basis. The hours are long, but I find it extremely fun. And every day you're basically learning about a new topic and having to be the expert on it for your host any given day. Yeah, so that's what I do. That's what I've been doing for the 4 years since I graduated, and here I am.
That's so cool. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. So to kind of really round this out, like all of the panelists here, myself included, graduated from the college, right? So if you're not from, like all students are welcome. But to be clear, kind of the questions that I'm going to ask over this next 20-minute period come from sitting down with a student. So like knowing what fears are, money wise, like how to get your foot in the door, that's like what we're going to pick apart here. And so I would just remind the panelists to keep the kind of answers smooth and sharp because there's so much good talent in the room. And so I want to make sure we share that. So first question here that I'll be passing to you, Danielle. How did you get your foot in the door? And do you have any advice when you do not know anyone in the business? And just to highlight, you got your foot in the door senior year, which is so cool. But just, want to hear about it.
Yeah, so the way I got my foot in the door, I kind of touched on this, but yeah, I basically fall of my senior year, I was like, I've never had an internship. I don't know anyone in the business. Like, what am I going to do? So I panicked and applied to just truly any internship that I could find that was journalism adjacent or podcasting adjacent. And I applied for Slate's actually live internship. So when live things were a thing, Slate had a pretty robust live outfit. And so I applied to that. Didn't end up getting that job, but I ended up connecting with the people who interviewed me, and then a job at Slate popped up and they reached out to me. And by that time, that job was being the operations manager of their DC office and also like kind of doing podcasting stuff. I was really kind of more adjacent to journalism than I was like really doing the thing that I wanted. And I think that's what helped me get in the door is like, one, it doesn't necessarily have to be the exact job that you want. Like if you want to be in podcasting and there's a job adjacent to it, I would say, honestly, go for it. A lot of the times that I've gotten opportunities is being able to talk to someone within the company, connect with them, and then they see the work that I'm doing, they see what I'm capable of or, possibly capable of, and like gave me an opportunity to move up the ladder. So I think that really helped me. And just trying to connect with as many people as possible. There are people here that you can connect with. Like I'd be happy to, give my email out and just, seizing on the opportunity to talk to someone face to face and be like, I'm a real person, you know who I am, or you've met me. I have some sort of spark, and have them, give you an opportunity or, help you find another opportunity that way.
I love it. Shooting your shot all day.
Yes.
It sounds like.
Highly recommend.
And then one also hear from Gabrielle from like the TV side. How did you kind of get your foot in the door there?
Sure. So I was a government major. That's why I went to Georgetown. I wanted to be a politician or be in politics. And I did a ton of great internships on the Hill, at an embassy, at the Obama White House. And I loved it, but I didn't see like, this is my path. And I'm a big planner and very type A, and I like planning, and that's not for everyone, and it has downfalls too. I'm from Los Angeles, so one summer I went home and I did an internship in politics and an internship in entertainment, and the one in politics gave me no work to do and I was bored, and I was commuting via bus and train and unpaid. Same thing for the entertainment one, but it sparked something in me. And so I did a couple of marketing publicity internships in entertainment because I thought that might be close to like communications and politics. And I realized I wanted to be close to making sure a TV show or movie was actually good versus marketing it and kind of being dealt to deal with whatever turned out. And so I talked to a bunch of Georgetown alums. I went on the alumni portal. I went on people's LinkedIn pages. I asked them for recommendations on who I should talk to. And I think the key is be open and be, you're not doing that first conversation to ask for a job, right? I did some of them when I was a sophomore and junior. I was just wanting to find out what they did. And sometimes I talk to them and I say, oh, that's so cool. And other times I talk to them and I say, this is really boring. I don't want to do this. Right. And so it was just having that initial conversation. And then I did the GMA externship the spring of my junior year because I graduated end of fall semester. So I kind of qualified as like kind of a senior. And I got to meet more alumni in Los Angeles. And when I graduated, I re-met people. It wasn't my first meeting. It was, hey, thank you so much for that conversation. And, thank you for taking my email updates over the year. Do you have any advice now? And I find, when people reach out to me, it's that follow-up. I don't love it when people come to me the first time and say, I need a job. And I'm like, I've never met you. I have 10 people asking me for a job. So it's building that relationship. And my job came through a Georgetown alum. I had an informational interview with someone who worked at Fox Sports at the time. I was interviewing at agencies. I got first rounds, but not seconds. I didn't know someone, and that's how it was at the time. And she said, oh, let me walk you down the hall. One of my colleagues used to work at CAA. Maybe she can put in another word for you. I walked down the hall to someone at FX attorney. She said, I'll put in another word for you. By the way, I might know someone who needs an assistant. If I remember who, I'll let you know. It turned out to be the CFO at DreamWorks needed an assistant. I never thought I would work on the business side. And I did that. It was a great opportunity to work at Steven Spielberg's company as your first job out of college. And I worked for the CFO and COO as an assistant. And then that next job, I went and worked for a writer producer. And how I got that one was I saw in Deadline, he signed a deal with ABC Studios. I wanted to work there someday because they'd made Grey's Anatomy and Ugly Betty and Desperate Housewives. I texted a Georgetown friend who worked at an agency that he was repped at. Does he need an assistant? Yes, actually he does. So both my first two jobs came through Georgetown alums, and I would just encourage people, have those initial conversations now. You don't have to know what you want to do for certain. It's about exploring it and using the alumni network to be your resource. I'd also say read up on it. Deadline, The Hollywood Reporter, Variety, those are great entertainment news sites. Listen to entertainment podcasts. The Ringer has some great ones. And just, see what you're interested in and see what type of shows you like. If you want to write, right? No one's stopping you. And just start to explore what you're interested in, and don't be afraid of, having a conversation with me, reaching out to me, and then deciding, I don't want to do what she does. I'm not going to be offended, right? So just taking that first step is what I'd encourage.
Gabrielle, that's so motivational. I love it. I love the whole energy of it. That's so cool. Definitely highlighting the need to reach out to Hoya as we're here. And then also like the GMA externship, if you're an earlier student, definitely consider applying. I didn't get it my year, which I was bummed about, but like I still knocked on all the doors and like hollered at people. And so now kind of, right, your foot's in the door, you've hit people up, but like there's that interview, and what is that? I'm going to pass this to Isaiah, but what do interviews look like in this industry, and how did you win over your interviewer?
Yeah. I think I went through about 3 rounds of interviewing for just the trainee program. And I feel like that process has changed from talking to people who have come into the doors now over the past year or so. But I would say the common thread, has been, I think part of this has been said, but like show that you actually like want to like learn more, and that you want to actually, start to have some passion about what you're doing. Because to be honest, like this is a very thankless job a lot of times. And a lot of people, not every single person in this building works here because they love the specific area they're in. And they love, film and TV. They love reading scripts. They love putting people out on tours, and they love, they love reading books. They have a big publishing department, So for me, every time I walked into, an interview for, any entertainment position, I showed that I really cared and wanted to learn and grow and do it like with like a passion. Like nobody would work harder than me. But then 2, that I actually I would read and I would stay up to date about what's going on. And because the other side of it is that if you get the job and you're in it, you got to kind of put yourself in those shoes of the person doing it. And they think about how to change with the industry, how to really mold and be flexible, and that's how you kind of, elevate. And so the fact that you can like show you're doing that now by just reading the trades and knowing what's happening with the company, you're speaking to, or the executive you're speaking to, or maybe some of their colleagues, or even the competition, like all of these things start to set you apart because you actually start to show yourself as an asset to who you're speaking to. At the same, like you're interviewing and you're trying to get into the door, and they want to bring talent in, right? So you should show how much talent that you have. And those are a couple ways, and obviously at the same time, and this goes like the second part of it, like you are a talent in and of yourself, and you should see yourself bringing contributions and value to that company. So ask your questions and make sure that that company is worthy of you. And so for me, and this doesn't hit it right on the nose, but I know one of the things I had always asked, within a lot of these type of interviews was why that person did what they did, given the industry is what it is. And it's so hard to get in and stay in and, and be authentic and genuine. And it usually caught people off guard, because those people love what they do and they love talking about themselves, of course. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Absolutely. That homework component is so real. I've had people ask me, like, what other jobs do you have available? It's like, no, you got to come with heat. Like, you got to come with a question to challenge me. And so in the interest of time, I do want to get through these questions. This one's fun because, like, moving to New York or LA, it's like expensive. It's a pretty penny. And coming out of college, right, costs money. And so Allie, I know you kind of made the move to New York journalism. How did you afford it, especially when these, or any just words or wisdom of like kind of starting that jumping point after Georgetown with a low salary job in a industry that's notoriously low salary, I should say?
Sure. Yeah. So when I moved to New York, I was actually working for ACE, for that creative agency / like hospitality group at first. And I am very pro, transparency of salaries. I was making $40K a year, which actually is, believe it or not, quite a bit more than some of my friends at like Vice or other media companies were making. But I will say, like, it was really hard. I did not socialize a lot. I paid my rent and I bought groceries and like occasionally bought some clothes. Like, that was pretty much it until I really strong-armed my company into giving me a raise and had some credible information as to why I deserved that. I think, if you're going to make this move before you even do it, you have to be really honest with yourself about your financial position. Is this a salary you can actually live on? And if so, for how long? Like, I told myself, I will give myself a year to live on this salary. And after that, I'm going to raise hell and get more money. Like, because I knew after a year I would have established myself at this workplace and then would have a little bit of credibility. And there's also a ton of studies that, you have the most leverage for salary negotiation when you get an offer, and then again at the 1 year mark. I will also say, don't make the mistake I did, which is I didn't negotiate at all. When I first got my offer, I was young and green and just didn't know that was a thing people could do. So like, always, always, always negotiate. I'm happy to coach anyone through that. It is a scary process, but is so necessary. And then like the last couple points I'll make is just, be transparent about how much you're making. Talk to other people in the industry, talk to your friends, talk to your peers, talk to people above and below you. At my first workplace, I was told that I think it got around that I was starting to talk about my salary with other people and was told that it was illegal. It's not. It is perfectly legal and perfectly healthy for everyone to be talking about their salaries and their compensation. So I definitely encourage you to be the bold one in your place of work and really make that a normal thing. And then lastly, just sort of going back to this like existential question of like, do I want to take this, maybe a job that pays more, but isn't really on the path that I want to head towards versus like, oh, I'm really passionate about this, but it doesn't pay a lot. I would encourage you to think about, what precedent will each of those choices set for the rest of your career, whether that's I'm making $50K now at my next job. I know I can ask for 70 because I have this base, or, I'm working in a writer's room now and I know that my next step is going to be, being a writer. This helps me do that. So there's no right answer, but those are sort of like the big questions I would encourage, everyone to ask, and that I'm still asking myself, to be honest.
Thank you for taking that one, just because it is, salary is always an icky one. And I think illuminating that you can talk to your friends, your peers about it. It's safe to do so. It's safe to go in that room and ask for more money. It's just always so stellar. And one thing that the industry is also notorious for is this idea of exploitation, right? Like, because you're working so hard and getting paid little in different roles and different capacities. I'm interested to know, just Isaiah, like how, on this exploitation idea, like how do you navigate jobs that ask for more than what you're getting paid, and kind of any boundaries you set in your mind or any stories that you have to share?
I feel very strongly about this, because there's a lot of great things happening right now for me that I think make me very valuable to a lot of people. And I think what I keep landing on is that who do I want to work with? Not even just clients, but also the people around me. You're gonna find out that what's the old adage that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. It's a lot of teamwork. It's a lot of figuring it out together. And I think that I'm within the walls of one of the best agencies in the business. And I think that when you think about the money part, and either like maybe there's too much on you at any given point, I think that when you're thinking about what you really want to do with your time every single day, and you feel like you're really living out your dreams and really being impactful in the way that you believe that your skill set allows you to be, to some degree, you have to kind of put the, really be realistic about the sacrifices you make, right? The money comes much later. Sometimes, the time comes much later. The swanky apartments come much later. Like, all of those things were things that I moved to New York knowing, and aren't any shock to me, right? Like, I have a better lifestyle now, obviously, because like I've gone up the ladder. But at the end of the day, I think that you need to always ask yourself, like, are you doing the things that you want to do, and are people respecting you and giving you the help and support that you need, and understanding your value? And if there's ever a point where you feel like you should have the conversation, then have the conversation, and then reassess from there to make sure all those other things are still being checked off.
I love it. I love the idea of going together and when you find your people in that respective job, if it's worth it or not, like constantly asking yourself. And kind of like the final question in this rapid fire section, looking at failure, like as Georgetown students, we're mad ambitious. We have our heart set on being number one, White House, right? Like everything at the top. And so when you get a no, maybe from that agency you apply to, because doors close, you're going to get no's in this industry. Gabrielle, what advice do you have? Maybe if a student doesn't get that top choice, or they receive that inevitable no?
I think I really believe when one door closes, another one opens. DreamWorks was not on my radar. I made way more money than I would have made an agency as an assistant. I had great bosses. I felt supported. It was a little difficult to get my next job without that agency on my resume, but it made me hustle and it made me network on my own, as opposed to having a great group of people at the agency, which, I did miss out on. So I really believe, like, you can think something's your top choice, but you never know what you're going to learn somewhere. I think I was rejected or heard no or didn't hear back from about 7 or 8 jobs before I got DreamWorks. And, I worked at Steven Spielberg's company. Like, that was never on my radar. And that was a really cool experience. And I still get rejected from things, right? I'm still told, oh, we really like you, but you're not right for this. And it's just, okay, cool. Like, something else is going to come up and I'm going to learn and grow. And it's all about picking yourself up. It's all about doing your research. And it's about knowing what you don't know, right? You don't know what your path is going to be. And you also don't know what the industry is going to be, right? No one would have guessed 10 years ago that Netflix would be what it is. So, you would have been like, oh, why am I working here? Like at this DVD company? Well, you were kind of lucky to work there at the time. So it's being really flexible, and also giving yourself a day to like get ice cream or cry and be like, man, I really wanted that. I was rejected from working for Josh Schwartz, who created the OC. I really wanted that. I got it because I didn't get it because I wasn't at an agency before. And I said, well, I worked for a president of a company. I can do a desk. Assistant skills, you're answering phones and scheduling. I can handle this. And so it's also knowing who are your allies and really finding those people out, but also giving yourself a day to like just say, I hate everything, and go from there.
I love it. I like giving yourself that permission, that grace. And I know, Allie, you have to cut out at the 7 mark really quickly, and I could stay after, but Allie, I want to give you an opportunity to answer that one before we get into the next question.
Sure. I mean, I think Gabrielle hit most of it, and I think something Danielle said earlier was super valuable, and along the lines that I would think as well, which is just like, if you can get your foot in the door somewhere, even if it isn't the exact job that you want, like that is still super valuable. And I think also, you can learn something from literally any job. Like, I had never heard of the company I first worked for in New York. I had no idea what it was. I thought it was pretentious, and I thought I was like too cool for it. But it was humbling, and I had a boss who invested a lot in me. And I think that experience was so necessary as a foundation for the rest of what I would do in my career. So I think there's a learning opportunity in everything. And like, it sucks to be rejected from your dream job, but like, I like to think that, whatever you land with, and you will land with something, is just a lily pad onto your dream job. So you might have to hop around a few times, but like, you will eventually get there.
But for Danielle, what is something distinctly Georgetown that propelled you towards your career path? Is there anything or anyone in particular that helped you along the way?
I think I'll say two things. I think my film and media minor really did help me. Like, I really loved being in the, I know it's you have to apply, but I loved being in the minor. I loved doing like everything from like making a documentary to like being in like a film theory class. It like helped me think, and it also helped me get like the hard skills of like learning how to use Pro Tools, which is like the worst audio editing app ever, but everyone uses it. It is a grumpy old band. We can get into it another time. But yeah, and then the other thing is I was on The Voice, and I strongly believe that The Voice is better than La Jolla, obviously, we all know. But so yeah, I was on The Voice, and it's a very flat place, and it kind of helped me prep for working at somewhere like Slate that is also pretty flat, and where like basically I can say what I think and people appreciate that about me. And also like I helped start podcasts with Voice. And so like I was like, I think we should do podcasts. And so I like sat in front of my computer and talked about movies with a friend for like an hour and like under edited it, and there was no music and it was bad, but I just got to do it because it was there, and like people let me because I was forceful about it. And so I think those two things helped me. Just like one, being able to just do what I wanted within at a place with other people who were interested in what I was doing. And also, the structure I got from the film and media minor.
Love the academic plug, and then love the, because I know it opens up for sophomores, right? So if you're a freshman, and then also just the student group plug, I love that. But now I'm going to pass it off to Thomas or Maddie if we want to do questions, or I know what was said is that we could have students just come off mic and then ask us individually. That works too.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks so much, Jimmy. So if anyone has any questions for our panelists, feel free. You can either drop them in the chat. If you're uncomfortable putting them in the chat with your name on it, you could direct message it to either me or Tom. Or if you want to take yourself off mute and just ask the question, that's also fantastic. So whatever folks want to do, just jump in.
Yeah, and I would just add that, again, this is a safe space and just an opportunity to, ask questions. What's on your mind? You have 5 people here who, want to be able to help you think through your next steps. So don't be shy, and we want you to ask some questions. Okay, Harris, you have your hand up, so go right ahead. We'd love to hear from you.
All right. Well, first off, thank you for doing this. Of course, I appreciate it. And second off, I just from what I understood from this entire thing, it does seem like social skills and cooperation is the main focus. It's what really would take you far in life. But other than that, would you say any other skills are needed?
I would just say for my position, I'm in development. If you don't like to read, a lot, maybe it's just knowing what you love to do. I get to read all day, and I read a lot, right? So it's reading 5 or 10 scripts a day, or, reading a couple books every few weeks. So it's just knowing if you don't like to read, if that's not your thing, there's other jobs within the industry, right? And there's so many different departments like post and production, within a studio or on set. So knowing what you love versus knowing what's expected.
I think for my case, I would say, I think if you specifically want to get into editing audio and doing podcasts, like Pro Tools is important, or just honestly, any non-linear editing software, I think it's called. So like Pro Tools or Audacity or just the Adobe one, or even like Final Cut, if you want to do, like, those are all non-linear editing software. So learning and being familiar, they're all pretty similar in like how they cut. And so learning those hard skills are important. And then also like recognizing that like you have the skills, like you've acquired the skills, and like don't sell yourself short in an interview or with anyone. Like sometimes you maybe have a transferable skill and you're not lying, but you're saying like, I've done this and I believe I can do this. And so having that in mind when you're talking to people or when you go into a job, and like knowing that you were smart and you were talented actually helps a lot and goes a long way.
I think that's great. Go ahead. Yeah, keep going, Isaiah.
Yeah, I said specifically for me, besides knowing how to do basic math, because people in my position do a lot of deals and negotiations and, throw numbers around a lot, especially when you need to deliver that money to clients. I learned a lot on the job. Like they have a whole course when you come here to like teach you how to do music touring and touring in general. They teach you all the language and what the different deal types are and what they mean and how to like, really differentiate between which one and when you choose one over the other, all those type of things. So there are jobs like I'm in where you do learn like 90% of it on the way. You just got to want to get in there and learn.
Awesome. We got another question that came through the chat, and it was, would the panelists recommend like trying entertainment industry jobs first, and if it doesn't work out, move into other spaces, or should we get established and like land a job first before trying out? So pretty much like if we're putting all of our eggs in the entertainment basket, when should we kind of cut our losses and maybe apply those skills to another area, or how much should we try again? As long as I got that correct.
I'll go first. Because I was interviewing at consulting firm, maybe two. And this was after I had been going hard on the entertainment path. And I remember speaking, anyway, it just wasn't for me. All right. I just bombed the interview and I just knew it wasn't for me. And right before like I decided to start to go off the entertainment path and try to maybe get more established, get some more money so I could, go to those conferences and fly places, build a network, the opportunity at UTA came. So I don't know, like, I guess I was on the path of I'm going to keep going on this. But then at the same time, I did want to at least have like a backup to a backup plan. I would just say have a strategy, getting as many interviews as possible. And to be honest, I think if you're doing that, like something's gonna pan off. But have your drop dead day. It's like by this time I need to like start to look somewhere else. Even if it's just because of its financial, that's okay. Just continue to keep your eyes on the prize at the same time and take those meetings and those calls, and it'll all work out at some point.
Yeah, I just wanted to offer kind of a little bit about my career path because it was a little atypical to Hollywood. So, I mean, I'm from the Bay, raised by a single mother, first in my family to go to college, GSP student as well. And so for me, it was really important to like have independence and financial independence. And so I went to the Google tech business development side, knowing that Hollywood was always in the back of my mind. So like I took that job, I made some guerrilla documentaries with some students at Georgetown at the time while I was still working. And then I like got all the chops I could in that Google job that paid me well so that I can transfer on over to Hollywood to manage title releases and be the person in the smartest person in the room when it came to the technology. So I think this is just my plug for like the Snapchat, the Google, YouTube. There's roles there where they do want you to the metaverse, to hold a conversation, but like there's roles there where you can do talent partnerships and still work in that tech field. So just offer that.
Hugh, I think you have your hand up, so feel free.
Awesome. Hi, thank you all so much for popping on tonight. Really appreciate it on a Thursday night. It's also wonderful. I think Ali and I were able to have a conversation about a month ago, which was wonderful. So I can attest to just reaching out to alumni and shooting your shot with random people on Hoya Gateway. But I kind of wanted to ask specifically for Jimmy and Danielle and Ali a little bit, but Gabrielle and Isaiah, if there's any input, I'd love to hear it, is when you're in a role and maybe, really starting out at a company, how do you really advocate for the own creative ideas that you have, whether it's starting a podcast or, really approaching something like approaching a live event, like a great idea that you have when you might not have as much voice or power starting out? Like, how do you really leverage yourself and again, advocate for yourself and your ideas in that position?
I can take this one. I think Slate is a very unique place. I'm also just very chatty. So the way Slate works is that we're on Slack a lot, and we Slack about we have 1 billion channels, and we're just talking about anything at all times. And I am in the business all the time. And so I think it's, when you start out, you're probably not going to have, the type of voice and the type of creative control that you want. But it's really is about finding someone in the company that you connect with and can talk to and will trust you, and also letting your work speak for yourself. So when you start out, you're not going to be able to do exactly what you want creatively, but it really is, unfortunately, about forming relationships. And kind of fortunately, it's you finding that someone that wants to mentor you or thinks that you have good ideas and will sometimes when I first started out, people would, I would be like, hey, I love your show. If you want notes or something, I would totally listen to it. And then give notes. And then, if someone needs someone to do something, then they'll be like, Danielle's pretty smart, she can do it. And then I think that's helpful in terms of getting people to trust you. And also don't do unpaid work. That's not what I'm advocating for, but it's about being invested, and it's about, taking those small opportunities to say oh, hey, I'm here and I just have this random smart idea that if you want to listen to it, you can. And yeah.
This may just be because I am in business school and I worked on a line of business within NPR, but I think if you can make even a very basic business case for why your idea should be pursued, it shows that you've taken the initiative to say, okay, here's the value it delivers, not just as a creative product, but as, for the company. I think just showing that you're thinking holistically is a very kind of rare skill, especially for someone early on in their career. And I think also, just purely from the creative lens, think about how you can do it better or completely different or in a completely new way. Those are really the keys, I think, in a creative space, to get that green light that you're looking for.
I'll just offer something really quick. So I think in my role, I had done the business pitch approach where I became the person that was brought in on how to talk to multicultural audiences. So Black and Latino Spanish speaking audiences. So I found that I was being brought in on Candyman, Netflix's Selena. I would have kind of pigeonholed my career into this, here's how you reach this audience. And it kind of hit a breaking point where I was just I want to write my own stuff and produce my own things. And so NPR has this fabulous fellowship called Storylab. I pitched NPR, they put me in this fellowship, and it was the right moment to walk out of that job into a new opportunity and kind of just shed that skin and then walk into this new creator mindset. So sometimes just knowing that drop dead date Isaiah talks about, feel when it comes, it comes.
I would just say be confident in your taste. Things that start to separate people in this industry because they have really, really good taste. And if you really know your space, if you love anime, if you love this genre of a book and whatnot, it's this isn't like any other. And I've read 70 others, within this genre. It's yeah, this person knows what they're talking about. It really matters within entertainment to have an opinion and to really know why you like something.
All right, we have time for one last question. So Erin, thank you for raising your hand and feel free to ask your question.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Erin. I'm a senior in college. And I once heard that the seats that we hold are not permanent. And so one day going to go on and do bigger and better things. And so my question for you all is, what advice would you give to the people who inherit your current jobs?
I think for me, be creator focused, like know why you're doing this, right? This industry can be hard. I think every industry can be. And so just know your passion. And for me, it's knowing the broader reason I'm doing this, which is connected to Georgetown and men and women for others. And I think just hold on to that, because when things get hard, you're like, why am I doing this? And it's helpful to have that reason. I'm so sorry, but I have to jump actually to a pitch for a show, but it was great meeting everyone.
Thank you, Gabrielle. We'll be in touch. Thanks so much. Others, feel free to jump in and respond to Erin's question.
I think the advice I would have for the person who would have my job next is, one, have boundaries. Like specifically the show that I work on is a grind. Like we have to have a show out the next day and it has to be on the news. So we are working on a 20-minute show all day and it has to be done. So you're going to have some late nights, but like establishing those boundaries is important, but also like be a good teammate. Because I think what has made this show specifically tolerable when it has been hard, or when you need to set the boundary and someone needs to pick up for you, or you need to pick up for them, is like knowing that your teammates are going to be gracious and kind and, support you and think you have good ideas, and just returning that to other people, I think is really important. Especially with something like this where it's like a grind.
I would just say be open to change. Yeah, just be flexible, because just change at the drop of a dime. You never know what else is going to be hot, and if you start to even think that something may, be the next thing, this is kind of like just a general statement. Just be open to it actually being the next thing, and trying to be the one that tells other people, right? Starts to make you different.
All right, we are at 8:01, and we do like to stick with our time frame because I know everybody is very busy. What I'd like to do now just quickly is say thank you so much to Jimmy and Danielle and Isaiah and Ali and Gabrielle for spending an hour with us tonight. I think what you heard come through loud and clear is that these are folks, as I said earlier, and what Gabrielle said earlier, is these are folks that are willing to talk with you, to listen, to help you. So again, this is part of building your Georgetown network. They've given you their email addresses so you can reach out to them. What Maddie and I will do also is make sure that we send an email out to this group afterwards, so you have that their email addresses, and we encourage you to build out your own network. So I'd like to just again say thank you so much for being here. I also want to say thank you to Abby for helping us with this and getting this going and started. And Maddie, any last words before we finish up?
Yeah, nothing that you didn't already say. Thank you all so much for joining us. It was great to have so many awesome participants, and thank you so much to our panelists and Jimmy, our moderator. Just really value and appreciate all of you and your time. So yeah, hopefully we can all connect soon. And this, again, I recorded this, so it'll be on our website hopefully within the next 2 weeks. So keep your eyes peeled. And when we send out those emails, I'll also send out the link to that. But thank you all so much. Really appreciate you being here.